What's going on YouTube? My name is Marcus, aka Apostle, and today we are going to try to figure out which class works best for you in Spellbreak. Before that, I just want to let you guys know that I live stream pretty much every day, so if you guys are interested in that, it's down in the description below. Be sure to check that out. If you're interested in Spellbreak at all, come by, ask some questions, ask to play, do whatever. I mean, it's down for a little bit, but it should be back up pretty quickly here. I'm so excited for closed beta too. Anyways, let's quit wasting time and figure out what is the right class that works for you. So, classes have a huge impact on the way that you play Spellbreak. Each class has a pretty unique playstyle. Some are stronger than others, but they're all pretty viable, at least in a casual setting. I'm going to try to avoid meta talk for this because I want this video to last long and strengths and weaknesses are bound to fluctuate in the future, but hopefully this video will give you a good base on how each class is played so you can find which one fits right for you. Keep in mind that just because you pick a certain class doesn't mean that you have to rely solely on that class's gauntlet. For instance, I tend to play Tempest or Toxic, but my main gauntlets that I do damage with are Fire and Frost, so that doesn't really add up, does it? So I don't necessarily recommend being completely reliant on your class's gauntlet, but what I do recommend is keeping your class's gauntlet on your right hand. The reason I say the right hand specifically is because as of right now, if you keep a third gauntlet in your inventory, when you hit the hotkey to equip that gauntlet, it'll actually swap out with the gauntlet on your left hand. So keeping your class's gauntlet on the right hand means that even if you gauntlet swap, you'll always have the utility of your class's gauntlet and your class's sorcery will either be available or always on cooldown. Whereas if you swap your class's gauntlet in and out, the sorcery is immediately put on cooldown, which means you won't have it nearly as often and that you won't have the utility that goes along with the sorcery. You don't have to do this, you don't even have to gauntlet swap, but if you do, I definitely recommend keeping your class's gauntlet on your right hand. Alright, now let's talk about the specific classes. The first class that we're going to go over is Pyromancer. As you could probably tell, Pyro is the flame class. If you didn't know, each class has a passive ability that you spawn with, and then 3 other abilities that you unlock as the game progresses. You unlock these other abilities by just reaching the next zone. As soon as you enter into the new zone, you're going to level up and unlock that next ability. Pyro's passive ability is called Combust. What this does is it just increases the splash range of your fireballs by 200%. So basically, if you miss your opponent with a fireball and hit somewhere around them, it'll double the radius in which it'll do damage to them. The first ability that you unlock after this is Firefly. Firefly allows you to fly when you walk into either your own or your allies' flame walls. This ability adds a little bit of mobility to the class, but not a whole lot. That's not saying that this ability isn't useful, it's just not really enough to make Pyro a movement style class. The next ability you're going to unlock is Paralysis. This ability doubles your flame wall damage for the first 2 seconds after casting it. It also turns your flame wall this cool blue color while it has increased damage, so that's pretty cool too. And the last ability you're going to unlock is Conflagration. Once you unlock this, your fireballs will explode into 4 smaller fireballs which can do more damage to your enemies. If you haven't noticed already, splash damage is really key with this class, especially once you unlock Conflag. Since splash is so important, you want to try to stay above your enemies as much as possible so that if you miss them with your fireball, it'll actually hit the floor underneath them, likely doing damage to them with the splash damage. I do have to warn you though, don't become too reliant on doing damage with your splash damage. You're going to end up developing a habit of aiming at the ground instead of the opponent, and if you decide to use another class or another gauntlet, you're basically just messing up your aim in any other game essentially. Pyro is really a super basic class since everything is basically just a damage buff except for Firefly. This may seem kinda boring, but for new players I recommend Pyro because it's simple enough to allow you to learn the rest of the game without having to pay too much attention to maximizing your class benefits. You'll basically be able to play well with this class whether or not you know a lot about the game. The next class that we're going to talk about is Toxic. Toxic's passive ability causes the Toxic Gauntlet to create puddles on the ground. These puddles do damage, apply corrosion, and can be used in combinations. They also really slow you down if you walk through them. They're actually really annoying to deal with if you get caught in them. After your passive, the first ability that you're going to unlock with Toxic is Vanishing Mists. This ability allows you to use your Toxic Cloud as a huge movement buff. When you enter either your own or your teammates' Toxic Clouds, it's going to cause you to dash and become invisible for a short amount of time. This ability combines great with the third ability, Outbreak. What Outbreak does is it doubles your Toxic Gauntlet damage while you're invisible. The Toxic Gauntlet already hits really hard as is, so this damage buff is pretty crazy. The move that you want to do with this is to use your Vanishing Mist to close the distance between you and your opponent and then slap him while you're invisible. This does a crazy amount of damage and can end a fight super quickly. Your final ability that you get with Toxicologist allows you to throw out 3 Toxic Clouds instead of just 1. As of the end of Closed Beta 1, the Toxic class has a crazy amount of mobility with Vanishing Mist, basically allowing you to engage or disengage whenever your Toxic Cloud is up, and if you pair it right with Outbreak, it's also a very damage heavy class as well. Due to its increased ability to disengage and pop opponents quickly, I think Toxic is one of the strongest classes for solos. The third class on our list is Tempest. Tempest's passive is one of the funnest in the game. This is wind jumping. If you cast your wind gauntlet at the ground, it'll bounce you up into the air for some added vertical movement. This can be used multiple times in a row and get you over obstacles incredibly quickly. Tempest's first ability is going to give you even more vertical movement. Updraft allows you to use your own or your teammates' tornadoes to launch you up into the air. You'll still take damage from tornadoes combined with other elements, so be careful of this. You can really mix updraft and wind jumping and spend a lot of time without touching the ground. This is where your last 2 abilities come in. Squall is going to give you increased damage the longer that you're in the air for up to 3 seconds. Once you're at 3 seconds, you're going to increase your damage by 30%. Similarly, Sudden Gust is going to make your sorceries cool down twice as fast while you're in the air. This can allow you to get those big sorcery combinations out much more often. If you're into high mobility classes, Tempest might be the class for you. On the opposite end of the spectrum, we have Stone Shaper. Stone Shaper is a tanky damage class. As a Stone Shaper, your passive is Stone Skin. This ability gives you 5 armor every time you use your Stone Gauntlet's primary attack. As you could imagine, this is where the tanky aspect of the class comes in. Now, if you've watched my Gauntlet video, you might already know this. If not, I'm going to link it down in the description below. But the Stone Gauntlet is incredibly timing based. The second ability of Stone Shaper helps make that timing just a little bit easier. Bedrock allows you to fall faster from the sky when you cast your Stone Gauntlet's primary attack. This alone makes the Stone Gauntlet way more usable, as you can outplay your opponent by changing your fall speeds. If you still can't hit any of your stone shots, don't worry, because next up we have Boulder Fall. This is going to allow you to store up to 2 boulders to throw. And if that's still not enough, the final ability you unlock is Accretion. Accretion is going to make your boulders grow in size as they travel, making them much easier to hit. If you're looking for something that's going to require a bit more aim, maybe Frostborn is the class for you. As you could probably tell, Frostborn utilizes a Frost Gauntlet to secure you the win. The Frost Gauntlet is an incredibly aim-intensive gauntlet. The passive of Frostborn is Frozen Alacrity. When you shoot your Ice Gauntlet, it's going to create a line of ice that you can use to skate on for increased speed. Be careful with this though, because enemies can also use your trail to either chase you down or use it to close the distance between you and them. If you really like the Frost Gauntlet, but you have trouble hitting those mid-air falling shots, Frostborn's first unlockable ability is Icicle. This is going to make you hover in the air while you're aiming with your Frost Gauntlet. It also highlights the enemy, making them much easier to see. Your third ability is going to buff your sorcery. Tundra makes you immune to damage while you're casting your Frost sorcery, as well as increasing its radius by 100%. As if hitting a really nice Ice Gauntlet shot is not satisfying enough, with your fourth ability, you can add an overcharge to your Frost shot if you just hold it down for a bit longer. This is going to deal some serious damage. Conduit is the lightning class. Personally, I think that this class is the least fitting for beginners. To use this class effectively, you need an increased understanding of the game and when to take advantage of your abilities. The passive for Conduit turns your usually burst lightning gauntlet into a fully automatic weapon. After that, you're going to unlock your first ability, Overload. This ability increases your maximum rune charge by 1. Although this is incredibly useful, managing runes and cooldowns in Spellbreak is no easy task, and this ability adds another layer to that, making rune management even more complex. Mana management is also a very difficult part of Spellbreak. Power Surge can make this a bit easier by giving you 4 seconds of infinite mana after you cast your sorcery, but maximizing the benefit of this is another thing to manage with the Conduit class. Conduit's final ability increases your amount of lightning strikes with your sorcery up to 3. This allows better area denial and crowd control. It may seem that I'm talking down the Conduit class, and I am a bit, but that's not just because that I hate playing against lightning users. I just really feel like as of right now, this class can make Spellbreak a bit more difficult on new players than it needs to be, and learning Spellbreak is difficult in general. I don't really recommend Conduit or Frostborn to new players. Once you get the basics down, play whatever you like, but just while you're learning, I recommend staying away from these two. Obviously, you can learn with these, but it might make it a little bit more difficult. This actually might change in the future, so make sure you look at the date on this video to make sure that this information is still valid. Spellbreak is still in beta, so they can make some huge changes, and I tried to make this video as basic as possible to last the test of time with the beta changes, but we'll see how that goes. Well, that didn't last very long. Proletariat just leaked some photos of the new talents that are being added in closed beta 2. I'm gonna make a deeper video on the topic once they're released, and I have some playtime in it, so I know what I'm talking about more, but we can do some speculation right now. From the looks of it, you choose one passive from 3 categories: mind, body, and spirit. It looks like the maximum talent points that you can earn is 6, and judging by this other leaked picture, it looks like you can earn them in game. The reason I say that is if you look around each of the passive's pictures, there's 3 bubbles that seem to indicate talent level, and as you can see, only 3 of the bubbles are filled, so that doesn't add up to 6. I don't know if you spawn with any talent points or how you earn the talent points, but like I said, it looks like there's a maximum of 6 that you can allocate, so you can't just fill up all of your talents to max. In this picture, you can also see a few examples of what each passive does. Tracking outlines an enemy you hit, making them easier to, well, track. Scavenging is health on kill, and Vital Stone makes it so instead of dying, you get 2 seconds of invulnerability before setting your health back to 10. I'm sure as you put your talent points into these abilities that it increases how effective they are. So maybe for tracking, instead of tracking for only 3.5 seconds, you track for 5. For scavenging, maybe you'd restore 50 health instead of 35, and for Vital Stone, maybe you'd resurrect with more health or have more immune time. This is all just speculation, but I hope it gives you guys an idea of what you're going to be getting into with this. Obviously, I haven't played with any of this stuff, so I can't give you guys any concrete tips on it, but once I'm comfortable with them, I will definitely make another video going over what builds I think are best, what talents I think are best, and just stuff like that. I don't think this should change the base class gameplay too much, so this video wasn't a total waste of time, hopefully. But it does add another level to the class system that we're going to have to figure out in the future. If you're looking for more Spellbreak content, I've got a bunch more tutorials along with gameplays and montages. Basically anything you can ask for you can find on the channel, so be sure to look deeper into that if you want Spellbreak content. Also, don't forget to check out the live stream. I do try to stream every day, and I'll definitely be streaming every day once Spellbreak is back up. It's been confirmed that it comes back up on March 3rd. I hope you guys found this video helpful. If you did, be sure to like and subscribe. It really helps the channel grow. My name is Marcus, aka Apostle, and I'll see you guys next time.